I'm going to call to order the Stanton City Council Successor Agency Housing Authority Joint Regular Schedule May of April the 11th. If you'll please all rise and join Ann Wen, who's going to lead us in the pledge.
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Mayor, Council Agency Authority Member Torres.
Here.
Council Agency Authority Member Taylor.
Here.
Council Agency Authority Member Warren.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Vice Chairperson Dan. Here. And Mayor Chairman Schauber.
Here. Tonight we do have some special presentations and awards. The first one is going to be a presentation of a proclamation declaring the month of April of 2023 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in the City of Stanton. As you know, we take this very seriously in our community because several years ago we had the infection of Samantha Runyon. And as you know, her mother took it upon herself after that horrendous experience to put together a program to educate all of us on signs of abuse, how to identify it, and how to protect our children. And so it gives me a great deal of pleasure tonight to award this proclamation on Child Abuse Prevention Month for April of 2023. And normally we don't read a proclamation, but tonight we will be reading it. So, Mayor Pro Tem, would you please read that for me?
Child Abuse Prevention Month, April 2023. Whereas in federal fiscal year 2021, 3.9 million reports were made to Child Protective Services, and whereas child abuse and neglect is a serious problem affecting every segment of our community, and finding solutions require input and action from everyone. And whereas our children are our most valuable resources and will shape the future of the city of Stanton, and whereas child abuse can have long-term physical, psychological, emotional, and physical effects that have lasting consequences for victims of abuse. And whereas protective factors are conditions that reduce or eliminate risk and promote the social, emotional, and developmental well-being of children. And whereas effective child abuse prevention activities succeed because of the partnerships created between child welfare professionals, education, health, community, and faith-based organizations, businesses, law enforcement agencies, and families. And whereas communities must make every effort to promote programs and activities that create strong and thriving children and families. And whereas we must work together as a community to increase awareness about child abuse and contribute to promote the social and emotional well-being of children and families in a safe, stable, and nurturing environment. And whereas prevention remains the best defense for our children and families. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that I, David J. Schauber, Mayor of the City of Stanton, do hereby declare the month of April 2023 to be Child Abuse Prevention Month throughout the City of Stanton, and in doing so, encourage the citizens of this community to join with me to take part in creating change for the future and raising public awareness and education to prevent child maltreatment and build healthy, safe, strong, nurturing families and communities.
And just to point out, this is not just from me, it's from the entire council, so you have all 5 of us behind you, trust me. At this time, I'd like to have Ann Nguyen come up and say a few words. Before we do that, why don't you introduce who our guests are tonight?
Yes, so I'd love to introduce our guests. We have our SEAC members, who are the Community Engagement Advisory Committee, and we have five schools represented here. So we have Twyla Reed Elementary, so Jude and Sarah from Twyla Reed. Miguel is from Orange View. Ruben is from Rancho. Orlando is from Alamitos, and Mariana is from Lawrence Elementary. And they're part of our bigger community, and they're the reason that we're here. So we wanted to thank the City Council and all the staff here for making this possible, and for the hard work that the SEAC members and the families do each and every day to make this a safe and healthy community.
And I think the kickoff was Saturday at the park.
Yeah, we had blue ribbon events at the park along with the Easter celebration. So a lot of opportunities to educate families and to provide meaningful ways of helping our kids be safe.
So let's all go down and give the presentation, folks. Patricia, do we have pens for everybody?
Sure.
Okay, we're
Save it always.
Hey guys, come on up.
Yeah, you don't want to be both like ranch. They did have some signs. They wanted to hold their signs.
You guys got signs?
Have a couple on this side, right?
Don't be shy.
Good job.
I've been in.
Push it a little bit.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Good job, Mama. Okay, one more. Ready? Hi. 1, 2, 3. Good job. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, where's our pizza? Okay, everybody line up right here. Behind Mayor Pro Tem. Get behind the mayor. All right, everybody go that way. You get. Keep going. Guys, get your pen. Come on, yeah, just go around and get them to go. So that is the end. Okay, who has not got their pen? Okay, Don's got it. Oh, yeah. We got, you take them home, that's what. Christie. Good job, Don. Anyway, thank you all for being here.
Thank you so much.
Make sure you get your homework done tonight. Okay, next we have my, report from, we have a presentation by the Orange County Fire Authority regarding lithium-ion batteries.
All right, good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, and city staff. It's my pleasure tonight to present to you this little presentation on lithium-ion batteries and some of the safety hazards that are associated with those. We're going to start off here with the video first. So, we'll let the PowerPoint go back. So what you just witnessed, there was a electric scooter, e-bike scooter, charging in a home, and in 3.4 seconds, it went from charging to a rapidly developing fire, creating a toxic, hazardous environment in that household. What we're witnessing now is we're starting to see a lot more of these videos now with the internet and everybody having video cameras in the homes, inside and on the outside. So we're starting to see a lot more of these fires and getting actual witness videos of these. Damaged, unstable, or improperly charged or unused batteries is when we were starting to see these incidents of these batteries starting to what we call, it goes into a degradation of the battery, and we starting to see these failures. Next slide, please. Well, actually, I can do that, yeah. I have that, I'm sorry. So there's a lot of common lithium-ion batteries that are found in the home every day. Examples up there you see your Energizer lithium AA batteries, the lithium button batteries, the 1220 there, the Surefire, the camera battery, the Duracell down at the bottom. These are very common batteries we see in our homes every day. They're very safe, they're very stable, they're manufactured to a very high standard under very strict conditions and testing. And then so we don't see a lot of problems with these batteries. These have been around for 10 years now, and they were very stable. We're not seeing problems with these kind of batteries. These are some of the other lithium-ion batteries now that have flooded the market. The 18650, that green battery on the left, that's what makes up a Tesla car battery. But in a Tesla car battery, it'll be anywhere from 3,000 to 7,000 of those batteries all together in a circuit. And that's where we're seeing these issues. And some of the other batteries up there are some of the other common batteries that we're starting to see in a lot of our electrical devices and so forth. Down there, an example is the size of a typical AA. So you can see that green battery is not a very large battery by itself, but it's when we put all these batteries together in a large pack, and it's creating these hazards. So there's the difference we're seeing with the lithium-ion batteries is they are very, when they burn very hot, and they off-gas a very toxic gas and smoke that is a direct threat, life threat to the public and then also our firefighters. They burn at temperatures extremely hot, about approximately 2,000 degrees. Once a single cell goes, basically fails in a battery, it's on a circuit, and so you'll start to see multiple cells start to fail in conjunction with that one single cell. So like on that first video, you heard that little pop, and then that was one cell failing at that point. And then as that fire burns hot, it'll start to degrade the batteries next to it, and then you'll continue to see those cells get what we call an overrun circuit. They do have a potential explosive potential with them, depending on how many batteries are all connected together in a cell. And you know, like I said, we talked about that thermal runaway circuit, and that's where you see those batteries just keep going one at a time. They'll start to fail and go through. Once this thermal runaway circuit begins, it's nearly impossible to stop, even with water. These batteries can burn without oxygen. In an oxygen deficient atmosphere, they can still burn the metal inside. So it's an extremely hazardous battery. We're going to show one more video here. So this one doesn't have any sound, but as you watch the fire, so the initial cell failed, and as you watch this fire continue to degrade, you're gonna start seeing those are additional cells of batteries that are now starting to degrade to the point of failure and explode. There's another cell of battery that just failed. And you see it just starts getting into this cycle that is nearly impossible to start. But the thing with these batteries burning at such high temperatures, plus with the explosive potential, that spreads, not only you have an extremely hot fire burning in the environment, it's also spreading hot molten material into the nearby area, which will continue to propagate that fire and burn. As well as you can see in the camera, you can barely see anything visible other than the fire because of that toxic smoke. How much smoke is coming off that one battery burning? So the concern with these fires, one is we're starting to see these batteries or e-bikes being placed in our living spaces, and that's a direct threat to our public and our community. These bikes or e-bikes are being charged in living spaces, and there comes a fire, it can block your egress to getting outside. So that's some of the concerns. In New York alone, they're seeing such a high hazard with these batteries. So looking at outlawing any e-bikes, any kind of scooters, the skateboards being charged, being allowable to be charged inside a house or inside a residence because it creates that problem. Especially in New York, you have the high density housing with the apartments, so they're looking at outlawing all e-bikes charging inside residential spaces. We can go back to the PowerPoint. So here you see, there's another concern with these batteries is that there's no necessarily warning sign of when they're going to fail. This was up in Sacramento last year. This was a Tesla vehicle that was damaged in an auto accident. It sat in the yard, wrecking yard for 3 weeks, and then 3 weeks later it caught on fire. So what happened was that initial battery, from that initial accident, damaged that battery, and then it just slowly degraded over time to the point of failure. And once it failed, they had a full-blown vehicle fire in the middle of a wrecking yard involving a Tesla that was in an auto accident 3 weeks earlier. So that's the other hazard with these batteries is that if they get damaged, best thing you can do is to take them to a recycling yard and get rid of them. Don't continue to use them. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So what we're starting to have problems with now is how do we, on the fire department side, not only the public side is the health safety, but on the fire department side, how do we now extinguish some of these fires? A normal car fire, we could put out approximately 500 to 1,000 gallons of water. Like a vehicle fire with an electric vehicle might take up to upwards of 10,000 gallons. The fires, we can extinguish them, they cool down, they're no longer on fire, and then 45 minutes later, an hour later, they can reignite. So this is creating a large problem for the fire service as well. So here you see a picture of they took a 40-yard roll-off dumpster, put the car in it, and then filled it full of water and just let it sit there for 24 hours to try to completely extinguish that hazard. The other thing we're starting to see with these batteries is, so these are some from Hurricane Ian, and this was the first after Hurricane Ian where you had vehicles completely submerged. Once that water dissipated, these vehicles were obviously submerged underwater. As we know, salt water is extremely corrosive. That salt water broke down these systems, and then a week later, they started seeing Florida, these vehicles start to catch on fire. They've been sitting, they're not charging. It's just that degradation of that battery. So it just shows you how unstable, even very well-made lithium-ion batteries for Tesla vehicles, it just shows you kind of the hazards that we're starting to see with these. So with the lithium-ion batteries, the concern is why are we starting to see these high incidents of battery fires now? Part of it is attributed to poorly made or damaged batteries or overcharged or improperly charged batteries. So if any of you, like an old iPod or an old cell phone, if you dropped it multiple times, you might see it start to swell, or the case of your phone or your iPod start to crack. That was that lithium-ion battery in there that was damaged, and was starting to swell, is what was causing it. And that's what's happened with, we're seeing these e-bikes, people are dropping them and so forth, they're, you know, they're large batteries, they're heavy, they drop them. It doesn't appear any physical damage initially, but on the inside of that case, you could have some damage to that battery. And then after time, it will start to slowly degrade, and we start to see these battery fires, excuse me. So overcharging. So what we're seeing a lot of them is people are charging these e-cell batteries, and they're leaving them on the chargers. And they're, you know, they overnight leave them in their garages or their household. We're starting to see a lot of these fires structure fires we're responding on. Like I said, a lot of them are caught on video cameras inside the house or inside the garage. And part of it is either being overcharged, or also it might be a poorly manufactured battery. So batteries that are, if you're buying a name brand, say e-bike or scooter, the batteries are manufactured, made here in the United States or other reputable companies. They've been tested by Underwriters Laboratories. We're not generally seeing a high incident with these battery fires. It's some of the knockoff e-bikes we're seeing, the e-bike scooters where the batteries are maybe mass produced, not under very stringent conditions and testing. And that's where they're starting to believe that is more the cause of some of these battery fires we're starting to see in. One article I read talked about even like during the manufacturing process of a battery, a speck of dust on that battery can lead to that battery failing in, 1 year, 3 years down the road, so it will slowly start to corrode and degrade that, excuse me, that battery. So here's some facts that I was able to pull off the internet about some of these hazards we're starting to see around the world. London stated in 2021 they ran on over 70 fires caused by e-bikes and scooters. The next bullet point, China, was a pretty staggering fact that they reported over 10,000 e-bike fires between the years of 2013 and 2017, with over 200 deaths related to those fires. And I couldn't find any specifics on the deaths, but most likely due to the high density housing they have in China, as my assumption is that these e-bikes were in residential communities and apartment buildings, and then that toxic smoke is most likely what caused those high deaths. As I stated, FDNY back in New York in 2022, they had reported 191 fires by these, 140 injuries and 6 deaths. They're taking it extremely seriously. They are kind of leading the front charge in the country right now. And as I stated, they're looking at help on any e-bike charge in any residential structure because of the hazards they present. And like I said, we couldn't find really specific data on the different battery brands, but the assumption is, and by what we're seeing is I think it's more these mass-produced, poorly made batteries that are causing the problem. In the OCFA, we found out around early 2022, we found out we weren't really tracking e-battery fires excuse me, in our fire department. So now all of our structural fire responses or any fire response we go on, now we have a button there, like a little checkbox if it was a lithium ion or any kind of battery was involved in that. So we're wanting to start to track this. In our early tracking, we're starting to see now about every 2 to 3 days, we're responding to a fire involving a lithium-ion battery in some form or fashion. So here are some basic safety recommendations that the OCFA recommends in the community at large. We recommend one, if you're going to purchase any kind of electrical device or replacement batteries that you buy from reputable sources. You don't buy, I'm guilty of it too. I had to replace a lithium-ion battery for a vacuum cleaner. The name brand was $150. The knockoff version on Amazon was $35. I went with the $35 one. But now we're starting to see these, after reading more of these details, I've since then replaced that battery. So we're recommending one, you buy trusted batteries that, have been tested and manufactured under stringent codes. And they, for example, they have the UL or Underwriters Laboratories seal of approval. Only use the device that came with that battery for charging. Any batteries, if you notice that they're swelling, leaking, cracked, if you start seeing smelling any foul odors, we recommend you immediately remove it from the device, put it outside in an open area. and then recycle that with an e-recycling, waste yard, hazardous waste yard. Do not, please throw it in the trash can. Do not keep, charging the device once it's fully charged. So one of the things that we do, we have e-bikes at our house. So one of the things I do is I only charge them when I'm at home, they're in the garage, and then I never leave them plugged in overnight. And I make sure if we're leaving the house, we're charging them, and I'm gonna leave the house, I'll actually unplug them, because of that concern of that overcharging, that overrunning circuit. And do not put, I already talked about the devices, so we're also starting to see a lot of, trash truck fires. And trash, basically, waste recycling are coming up, we're starting to see a lot of these fires in trash trucks. Obviously, because of the amount of debris and trash, we can never, completely rule out what is the cause of those fires. But it is suspectable, some of those fires are definitely being caused by damaged lithium-ion batteries being placed in the trash. And especially in the large, trash vehicles, when they compact that trash, that alone right there can cause that battery to be damaged and fail. The OCFA, we do have our lithium-ion battery hazards. We have some safety data sheets. These are available on our website, www.ocfa.org. And I can also distribute those to the city if you wish, for putting on your webpage and your other public safety notices. That concludes this presentation. Thank you very much for allowing me this opportunity to quickly talk about it. And just as you see here in this picture, this was in Newport Beach last year. It's an e-bike sitting on the beach, not being charged, but it went into the battery was starting to fail on its own, and then it went to cause a fire by itself. The one thing I want to strongly recommend is if you are at home and you have a device that's charging or an e-bike that catches on fire, don't try to extinguish it. Just immediately gather your loved ones and get out of that house quickly, because you can see how quickly those things fail, and that smoke is extremely toxic. I'm going to talk a little bit in my presentation a little bit later about one of the fires we had here in Stanton. One of those fires involved a lithium-ion battery manufacturing and e-bikes, and we still have a captain who's off duty and may not return to work due to complications from that toxic smoke. Thank you, and available for any questions.
Go ahead, Darren.
There was an article, this is just a comment, really, there was an article in the Register last week about a Tesla that got rear-ended and pushed into another car, and then it just suddenly caught on fire. And both occupants were killed, and I think it was on the Annual Freeway.
I didn't see that article, but being a Tesla, I'm going to assume, not reading the article, not being there, but most likely the cause of that fire was that battery being damaged to the point where it just went into an immediate
There's not much else that can make a Tesla catch fire, right?
No, there's no fuel, there's no gas, there's nothing like that that would cause it. There's no, obviously, gas. It's not a hybrid car where it's a gas battery combined. So my guess would be is the impact was so severe, it probably damaged that battery instantly and then ripped open one of those cells. And once that cell one goes, they all start to go.
Do all the car companies do batteries the same way? Thousands of them combined? Is that how batteries are done now?
That's how batteries are done. Yeah, it's not one big giant Tesla battery. It's multiple cells. And I said I learned a lot by putting together this presentation. I said some of those car batteries can have over 7,000 of those little batteries. It's basically the size of a AA. And it's just all those batteries are in the circuit. There's some different manufacturers use different style lithium-ion batteries. Some are cylindrical, some are more of a box or a pouch, but it's all basically the same technology.
And have we seen any fires of people charging their electric cars in the garage overnight?
We've, in the OCFA, we do have some history of some vehicle fires, Teslas being started. We don't know, I'd have to talk to the investigators about if they ruled out, because any fire that involved, and especially electric vehicle charging, will go to further testing to determine if it was the battery in the vehicle, if it was the charging system, or the electrical wiring in the house that caused that fire. And what we're also seeing occasionally is e-cigarettes. E-cigarettes in people's pockets are catching on fire as well, and people have been severely burned and injured from those as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Joe.
I study lithium-ion batteries for Samsung. because they make them for all the stuff they make. And the good news in everything you said is the truth. The good news is though, is this is such a huge business. I mean, this business is worth like $30 billion in the next couple of years. That researchers around the world are frantically trying to solve this problem. So hopefully, you know, and every day you're reading about, well, if I add salt to this, it'll do this and that, it'll fix it. So hopefully one of those will come to manufacturing and fruition and remove this problem from.
Absolutely. And I don't think lithium-ion batteries are going to go away just because of how efficient and powerful, long-lasting they are. It's just that there is a public safety message there with them, and then the biggest piece is that if you're at home and you see that you're having any light or anything catches fire, just get you and your loved ones out, and don't even try to extinguish it with the fire extinguisher because you're not going to stop it.
It's really shocking, the data that you're presenting. Every 2 to 3 days, we have a fire due to lithium-ion batteries. So I'm, and this is all new to me too, so I'm really concerned about whether or not the general public is able to get this information. And if I know you have that sheet out that you'll be distributing, I wonder if there's a way to make sure that's translated to Spanish and Vietnamese and whatever languages it needs to be translated to, so that everyone can have access to that information.
I want to say anything that we produce is translated in multiple languages. I don't know how many exactly, but I can look into that and get that back for you.
Just making sure we distribute it to as many communities as possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know that in certain hobbies, it's common practice to put the batteries in like a bag. I guess like is somebody supposed to like hinder if it would like explode or anything? Are those helpful?
They are, and that's what they're using on airlines, and that's why if anybody's traveled lately, why they ask you, when you check your luggage, do you have any batteries or anything in there, your rechargeable batteries, and that's partially why. Because they don't want those obviously underneath the passenger compartment where they're not accessible. But they do have those bags that they have on planes, and I know hobbyists do as well. And those are helpful. They do restrict that fire from propagating, getting larger. So they do work, yes, bottom line.
Steve, that was very good, very thorough. Is there a chance that you could email all of us that in maybe a Word or just a regular document? There's some things in there that I think that we will all tee out to the constituents that we have in our different districts that we serve. Newsletters, we put those out. Well, let's just have it on our Facebook. So if you can get that presentation as a slideshow, but then also give it to us in written form, we would be able to distribute it for you.
So what I'll do is I'll email Patricia the PDF with all the notes that has some of those additional details in it. I'll email that to her tonight and she can distribute that out.
Okay, perfect.
Perfect, thank you.
On my website. Yep, and I think also the OCFA does have, I think most of these various languages stored in shape.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. I also want to thank you for the report back on the radioactive element that is found in smoke detectors. I'll be sharing that with the board.
We all learned something researching that one.
Yeah, nobody knew that, right? All right, at this time, we'll move on to the consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar will be acted upon simultaneously unless a person would like to pull something. Okay, I'm gonna pull G and H, and then is there any requests from the public to pull
Mr. Mayor, we have none.
and staff?
We have none from staff.
Is there a motion for the balance?
Mr. Mayor, would you like to open it up for public comment?
It is good.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were talking to the great communication. But no, I have not received any report from you, sir.
Okay,
Testimony.
I got trained really well. She goes away for one trip and the police are come back completely changed.
Okay, my apologies. That motion again? Yes, we have a motion on balance?
I'll move it.
A second.
And Mayor Pro Tem secretary.
We have a motion by Councilmember Taylor, a second by Mayor Pro Tem Dan. I will now proceed with roll call vote. Councilmember Torres?
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor?
Yes.
Councilmember Warren?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dan? Yes. And Mayor Shelford?
Yes, thank you.
Crown Castle Fiber. Mr. Schopper, your inquiry, please.
Thank you. For many years, I tried to bring wireless to the city of Stanton, gave it my best shot, starting, almost 10 years ago, then 5 years ago, 4 years ago, but nobody wanted to do it. And there were a lot of pros and cons to it, so I understood. However, we have a company now that's just going to do one pole of 5G. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mayor.
Okay, now, the range for that's not going to be like the whole city, is it?
Excuse me?
It won't be the whole city.
Not at this moment, just one location.
So why are we putting up just one in one location? Is it because he contracted with the local business or?
Yeah, so with me today, actually, on Zoom is Mark with Crown Council. And so he could talk a little bit more on the specifics on those where, they strategy, they put these locations in certain areas that are, gonna make a good network for them. So, Mark, if you're available?
I am. Hopefully you can hear me. Good
Yes.
afternoon, Honorable Mayor and members of council. Thank you. I'm Mark Myers with Crown Castle. Thank you for hearing us tonight regarding our municipal license agreement. This agreement basically is to attach to your infrastructure in the public right of way. It's municipal facilities. But going back to your question specifically, in this particular instance, when it is a small cell, it's used to offset capacity for larger macro towers. And you're right, they do have a very limited amount of coverage in this particular place. So they're typically sited based around a need or a high concentration of usage. And that's how this particular one was selected. This agreement will allow us to then do subsequent installations throughout the city on any city-owned infrastructure, should we need to do so.
Is that going to be granted one at a time or we give you a blank check?
Well, this one is just on a traffic signal, or excuse me, a streetlight pole specifically. So this would apply to anything, any citywide, city-owned infrastructure that's in public right of way, not on private property.
So,
Would you be willing to bring back a plan for we're only 3.5 square miles. Would you be willing to bring back a plan so that we would be able to have this service available to all our schools, businesses, and residents?
Well, Crown Castle is a neutral host provider. So we're the one that's establishing the location that then serves the customers based on whoever the carrier is. So in this case, it's, T-Mobile, Verizon, and AT&T, and then Dish is forthcoming. So our infrastructure is built around where their needs are specifically. So at this particular time, we have this one in place that we need to get constructed. But this agreement will pave the way towards more to come in the future.
And how do we get that to happen?
Well, it's just a matter of identifying the need in any particular area based on the existing coverage that's throughout the city. So like this one is sort of cited specifically based on a need, a high concentration of usage that the existing facilities cannot accommodate. So this is along Beach Boulevard, for example, which is a major thoroughfare. So people driving in, along Beach Boulevard are utilizing their phones and maps and apps and things like that in their vehicles. So this will afford them the ability to have expanded coverage by offloading some of the capacity of the existing surrounding sites.
So who, if this service is used, then is it open to anyone? I know that that's usually the case. Or do you have to be a particular customer? And then who's actually getting the financial benefit from the use of this tower?
So in this particular case, it is one wireless internet service provider. So whoever subscribes to that particular carrier would be able to utilize and get the benefit of that service. Now, certainly as a neutral host provider, all of our customers are all the different wireless companies. So we would certainly look to attract another location, another carrier to the same location to expand their services as they need to. So in this particular case, it's for T-Mobile specifically.
So this is specifically for T-Mobile users, right? And so therefore, people with a cell phone that are not subscribers to T-Mobile would not be able to utilize it, correct?
This particular location, that is correct.
So I think,
That's just for now, Dave.
Huh?
I mean, another company could come in and rent the tower and use it too.
no, I understand.
Are these towers going to be compatible with 6G that's rolling out in 2030?
Yes, absolutely. So as a neutral host provider, we do provide, infrastructure. This would be a pole replacement. So we're taking existing pole out that will then be able to accommodate any type of future upgrades such as the 6G, other additions, as you mentioned.
This basically then it goes back to the early days when the cable was being replaced with fiber instead of copper. And so basically at this particular point in time, we're just upgrading the Wi-Fi services in the communities, like just kind of like the old days when we used to have to take the copper wiring and turn it into fiber. Is that kind of what's happening?
Yeah, yes, you could sort of qualify it as that to some degree. All of these locations are fiber fed. Fiber is the backhaul backnet to everything. Big data, right? That's the fastest, quickest, most efficient means of big data transfer that we're all growing accustomed to utilizing and experiencing those high speeds. So yes, that is very important. And we have 85,000 route miles of fiber throughout the nation, and we were bringing that fiber right here to Stanton as well. So in addition to providing neutral host locations for wireless carriers, we also do service your businesses and your school districts and things of that nature. We have a lot of enterprise customers as well that utilize that same backhaul, that same fiber that you're referring to. So yes, that is exactly true.
Is the replacement pole and light an upgrade for us, or is it similar, is it the same? Because I know some of the units that we have had the ability to actually plug in at the top a Wi-Fi system, cameras, and other things. I know that when we updated some of the lighting along Beach Boulevard and other areas, we had a head that we chose from that had a bump on the top that we were able to put and attach ancillary usages. How does that compare to what we're getting?
Well, with that, this is a little different. The one we're installing is just a smaller cell site. There's nothing adaptable to it, right, Mark?
Say the last part of that. I couldn't hear you.
You can attach to or add to this cell site, correct? There's just the cell site itself. There's nothing that could be plugged into.
Well, with the appropriate provisioning, we could accommodate that. But yes, as it stands or as we're proposing it, yeah, no, this is just to utilize one existing streetlight pole to attach some small cell radios to it for T-Mobile. That's it.
So they're going to use the existing pole and attach their unit to it?
They're gonna, yeah, there's an existing pole they're gonna replace to be able to capture structurally that cell site and any upgrades in the future as well.
Yeah,
So,
that's correct. The pole will match exactly and fit and finish. It looks identical. Same height, same finish, same design, same company. It's Amaron. So, and it full.
It's structurally, because now you're adding some extra weight to that pole. So you want to be safe, the foundation be reinforced. So that at very constantly, we want to make sure that it's reinforced and it can hold up any future improvements as well.
Okay, and then who's going to pay for the cost of the pole?
Crown Council.
Putting it in.
Crown Council.
Okay, did we receive any kind of reimbursement for having to put the pole in originally? The cost the city did to put the pole up?
No, that doesn't cost the city because it's all on Caltrans right away.
No, I mean, we paid to have our poles put in, correct? And we paid for our poles, right? So if we remove that pole and take it out, that is that was an expenditure that we used.
Right. I mean, I don't know how long ago we put that pole, but
Well, we just replaced some of these, I think, 3 years ago? Was it about 3 years ago?
When I first joined council, we had talked about purchasing all those
Right.
poles and converting to LED from Southern California Edison. And I recall what you say about, because at the time it was Alan Gray who said that where the light comes out, at the very top, you could attach something to it to have other functions with the light pole, such as a camera or whatever. I don't know if that's still possible with the pole that he's installing.
We can look into it and make sure that they replace the light bulb, the light bulb, we could make sure, Mark, that it's replaced in kind.
Absolutely. That is correct. Yeah, it'll look identical. We're just attaching a small box on the side of it. It's identical to what's out there.
We'll verify that.
So basically, your reason for being here then is you want to improve the structural stability of the pole and put your system on it. Because if you were to put your system on our existing poles, it would be structurally sound. Is that basically it?
In this particular instance, yes. But what we're here for is to establish the authority to have city manager sign the agreement when we do have more of these come built. So that's what this master license agreement is establishing, is a base template for us to utilize. So when we come in and want to build more of these in your right of way on other poles, we can just sign off. We already have the agreement in place.
And that will be with any of the different vendors that are interested in working with you, correct?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
And so basically, that's how you get paid. You get paid from the vendors who put the poles in. The vendors get the money by subscribers. It's kind of a chain, right?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I noticed in the contract, they had talked about unmetered electrical services. So the cells that you have attached to these poles, how is it powered and who is paying for that power?
So that's a great question. So all these small cells are very small and defined by the FCC in size and dimensions and cubic volume. And they all require fiber or some type of backhaul. And then they also require power. They are low power, which is a benefit because it makes it much easier to bring it in and stuff. So when we do attach to an existing streetlight pole, in some instances, we can draw power from the streetlight poles. In some instances, we have to place our own meter. And in other cases, we try to utilize unmetered service so we don't have to add any ground furniture or meter pads in the right of way. So in this particular case, we use unmetered service through the benefit of Southern California Edison has a wireless tariff rate. It's called the WTR in short. And so we utilize a meterless sort of fuse to power this particular small cell. And that is that we pay. Yeah. We pay for the pole, we pay for maintaining it, we pay for the light, we pay for everything.
But you don't pay for the electricity.
And the electricity.
Have you ever, some of these I've seen have solar adaptability and they also have battery backup storage. Are any of your units advanced that far?
No, not quite. Yeah, that's good foresight, but not yet.
So, if I may, Mr. Mayor, currently at the electrical poles, the street lights that our city owns that are LED, we bought from Southern California Edison. Our city pays for the electrical cost of those lights. Is that correct?
Correct.
And now that he is installing a new light, is he going to be paying for the electrical output of that street light? Or do we still have to pay for
We
it?
still pay for, yeah, we still pay for electricity to the street light, but he's paying for the component that he's installed.
How do you figure that if you don't have a meter?
Well, he's paying the I guess, the rate or the prorate cost of that with the Edison that he has to pay. Right, Mark?
That's correct. It's a meterless rate. We're paying a flat rate based on the tariff that was established for wireless facilities without a meter pad. So that gives us a certain amount. It gives us 30 amps of service that we pay a flat rate for.
And how many more of these do you foresee having in our community? Just a wild guess.
Well, just in Stanton or in general? I can tell you that I'm responsible for what we call the Los Angeles district, which runs from Santa Barbara through San Diego. And we have more than 10,000 nodes that we built in the past 6 years. So It varies. As I mentioned, it really depends on where the need is, where the high demand is. So that's driven by where our customers' needs are. So if you have a Verizon phone and you're driving down Beach Boulevard and your calls drop, or it looks like you have coverage, but you can't send a text, then that's a great location for adding a small cell. So it's hard to say specifically. In Stanton right now, we have a few more that are potentially planned here, but I can't say anything in certainty. The carriers are also just starting to release sort of more work to us in locations they've identified recently where they need to have additional poles added. So in general, we're building a lot of them in the Southern California, Los Angeles basin area. This year, we plan to build almost 4,000 of them spread out through, most all of those jurisdictions that we mentioned, in Los Angeles area.
Caesar,
Yes.
have you done a comparison in the specs of our existing lighting, the looms or wherever we have, and the type versus what we're getting as far as a comparison of this different specifications?
Not yet, that's what I'll do based on our conversation today. I'll look at the specs and make sure that the picture head is the same that we've had there before.
Okay, so in other words, you'll be able to let us know, because we know that one of the biggest concerns we have is that people say our streetlights don't do any good because they're not bright enough. I know we have to take into account traffic and all that and safety, but we do need to replace them with the same quality and specifications of those lights that everybody's been happy with recently.
Yeah, I'll make sure that gets done here.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, can you please explain the methods used to see the traffic that would go into this antenna?
Well, I can explain it, but I can't show it to you specifically because that's proprietary to the specific carrier that's asking for the service in this particular location. So they, as you may recall or may know, cell sites are sort of dynamic. These bigger, taller towers that are utilized is the base of the cell network. And so the number of users on that create it to ebb and flow in size and how much coverage is there. So if they have a lot of users on it, the amount of coverage sort of shrinks down the cell and makes it smaller. So it creates gaps from one cell to the next. So what these small cells do is allow it to hand off so it doesn't drop. So that is driven again by customer demand, which in turn is driven by their users' demands. So I don't have specific foresight into their information on that. They just sort of give us the information that says where they need to have these located in order to suit the best purpose.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Joe.
Your regular cell phone service is 4G. 5G is a super high-speed internet. So it's not like this is going to impact your regular cell service. This is just going to give you the ability to have high-speed internet. So while you're whizzing down Beach Boulevard, you can watch your movie in real time and see it as fast as you want. So that's the difference between 4G and 5G.
And you did pick the right location. Because that is a dead area in the city, so good job.
Good.
Okay, I don't really have a problem with it. Does anybody have a problem? The only thing I would like to say is I want to make sure our city engineer thoroughly checks it out. And then once you get that approval, then I think we'll be able to go forward,
Yep.
So the action that we need to take tonight, first, I think there's two. Okay, the first one is not a big deal, that's CEQA. And then we're going to approve a license agreement authorizing him to do this throughout the city. But I assume that it will be through our city engineer will be in control of that, right?
Yeah, actually, it's processed through our community development department, but as we work together to make sure that we'll look at these as they come in, so it'll be on a supplemental component, so we'll work together on that.
And the council will be notified, right?
I think it's done administratively right at the way the meeting code is set up is administrative through.
you know, when you start doing things administratively, then things start slipping through the cracks. Like an example, somebody's gonna come here and say, why is that pole there? Or they don't like the way it looks, or something like that. I don't know.
If I may, there was a resolution that was adopted by the council in 2019, August 2019, which set specific design guidelines for these exact type of structures on the right of way. So that's what staff would be following. Our municipal code identifies that a minor use permit is required, which is an administrative process, but it is still an application process. And we are following the guidelines that were adopted by the city council. But we can send memorandums to the city council, since this is an area of interest, every time we get one of those applications.
Would this be something that would be good to have you go to the planning commission? I know it's administrative, but just a thought, because you work closely with the planning commission. They're kind of our eyes and ears out there.
And I understand the idea behind wanting to have more input from this. With telecommunications, I believe, and again, still getting familiar with what's going on here, but my experience in other jurisdictions is that a lot of the telecommunications processes now are more administrative, because a lot of the legislation that's come out in the past 5 years has sort of deregulated and taken a lot of the discretionary review out of that process. It's a lot more checklist. If it meets certain requirements, then the city is required to process and move it forward, which is probably why we have this administrative process now.
That's correct.
I think what's gonna happen is somebody that has T-Mobile is gonna be a happy camper, but they're gonna be in a car with somebody with a Spectrum, and it doesn't work as well, and then we're gonna get the one from Spectrum, but we don't care. All right, is there anyone who'd like to make a motion on this?
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Okay, go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Mayor, do you want to open it up?
Sure, does anybody would like to speak about this? Chief, you have anything you'd like to speak about?
I'm good.
We have a motion by Councilmember Taylor, a second by Mayor Pro Tem Dan. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, item passes.
Thank you for your information. We really appreciated you being here tonight. It was nice of you to show up for this section. And if we can ever be of any help, please reach out to us.
Honorable Mayor, thank you very much. Council members, I appreciate it very much. Staff has been wonderfully helpful in this arrangement, so thank you. Have a great evening.
Right, next. Okay, it's 6H. Very good.
The resolution of the City Council of the City of Stanton, California, approving subdivision parcel map number 2017-160. Your questions, Mr. Mayor?
Is this a lot that's in the cul-de-sac on Lexington? Crystal?
If you will give me a second, I'm just pulling that up.
Mayor, it's not on the cul-de-sac. It's not on the cul-de-sac, Mayor.
Okay, it's on Lexington.
It's on Lexington, correct.
And where is the square footage that they're putting the two houses on, and what is the density?
Density. I honestly don't have that information with me right now.
Is it medium density? High density? I think that's a high density area if I remember.
I believe it's a medium density area, and again, I could be wrong, but my understanding is that it's an R2, I believe, which would be medium density.
If you like, Mayor, we could definitely get back to you, through, Xenia, we could give you the information and have her send you an email with the square footage and the zoning,
Yeah, if it's that area I'm thinking of, that's very crowded there. Are these single family homes or gonna be townhomes?
single family, homes right there.
2-story?
Yes, 2 stories.
Has this, this will go to the planning commission, though, right?
It did, yes, it went, this already went through planning commission.
And what did they say?
It's approved. If I may clarify, when a parcel map is being presented, typically the process is that, the site plan itself, as well as the tentative parcel map is presented to the planning commission. In this case, they did vote to approve both the development and the subdivision of air rights for the two parcels. And then after that, they work with the county and they work with our engineering department to finalize and make sure the legal description for the final map is appropriate. And then that final map is brought to the city council for final approval. And so I believe that's where we're at right now. The planning commission has approved the development itself. And it's just a matter of the city council identifying if the final map meets the minimum standard.
Thank you for that, and I'm so glad that the city hired you. Because I don't think we've always followed that game plan historically. No, sometimes yeah, sometimes no. But the thing is that I think as long as we do what you just said, we're going to be in good shape. You know, we've been getting too many surprises to it. I hate to say it, to where this council, you know, we're driving down the street, we take a look at somebody, we say, how in the world would that ever happen? And I think that's the only reason I'm being precocious. And so now that after you assured me of the process, I feel a lot better, because that is the correct process. Okay. Does anybody know what the density is there? Did you find it, Phil?
I have the lot size, I don't have density.
What's the lot size?
10,905 square foot gross and 9,319 square foot net.
Okay, so, that's enough for what, two units only, right?
That's what we want.
I think it's two, so that'd be 1 unit for every what, 4? Yeah,
Mayor and council, I just did a quick search. I found an agenda for the planning commission, and it was a public hearing to consider site plan and design review of construction of 2 single-family detached dwellings and a common driveway at 100672 and 10572 RM, medium density residential.
so you, okay. So that's more down to the south, right? Of the street, south of it. For the north, it's all a bunch of apartments.
It was actually on the east side, because it's a Lexington, it's a north, south, so we got the east side of, is where the proposed condominiums are.
I
Development.
think you're right, Mr. Burns, down to the south part of the street. It might be that way.
Yeah, I'm looking at the city's official zoning map, and it is medium density residential.
And so what's the square footage of the domiciles they're going in?
The square footage,
Yeah, what's the size, what's the square footage of the units going in? Are they 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, 2-bedrooms?
we have to look at the planning commission document.
And
I should say on that.
I'm looking for that resolution right now.
You know, it's just that section of our town. It's very, very crowded there. And I just want to be very careful because that's all I ever hear. I mean, if you don't have a license, then everybody double parks there. I mean, seriously. And Bell Street, it's even worse. It's full. In fact, if we ever have to build on a public parking lot there, where are we gonna park? Maybe build one of those 6 high-story parking facilities. So this has been thoroughly vetted with the planning commission, correct? And their recommendations for approval, correct? Okay. Or go ahead and vote that we approve it.
I'll second.
Go ahead.
Mayor, you want to open it up for public comment?
Sure. Anybody in the public like to discuss the Lexington condos? Okay, I'll close the public hearing.
Mr. Mayor, we have a motion by Mayor Schaller, a second by Mayor Pro Tem Dan. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, item passes.
Okay, we have no public hearings. Unfinished business, 8A, this is ordinance was introduced at our regular meeting. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Mayor, item 8A is approval of ordinance number 1131. As Mr. Mayor had reported, this ordinance was introduced at the regular city council meeting of March 28, 2023. The recommended action for this evening is that I read the ordinance entitled ordinance number 1131, entitled an ordinance of the city council of the city of Stanton, California, adding section 10.08.015 to the municipal code to establish parking requirements based on curb marking and determining the ordinance to be exempt from CEQA. Recommended action number 2 is that city council adopt ordinance number 113. That concludes staff's report, and staff is here to answer any other questions that you may have.
Caesar, you did a great job on Magnolia.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, I was actually able to pull out of the parking lot there and they get hit. So I think giving you you have the discretion now, right?
Correct.
Boy, that's been long overdue. Well, since we're talking about red curbing, we can probably do that. There was some information given about Heinz Road on Beach Boulevard, about the red curbing there. As you remember, we did a lot of red curbing on Beach Boulevard, and that was to eliminate some ladies of the night using our arterial roads. Some of those areas might need to be revisited, and so I'm very glad that you have the ability to work with Mr. Brown. I think it would be very helpful. And then also, there was a request, there was a stop sign that was knocked down there. You might want to carefully get that too. That'd be great.
We'll do it.
Okay, is there a motion that we give Caesar the ability to handle it with her?
I think the motion is for the ordinance right here.
Correct.
Do you want to open up for public comment first, Mr. Mayor?
Sure. Come on, chief, you gotta say something. Say it's a great thing or something. Okay?
That gentleman is part of staff, or any other members of the public? Hearing none, Mr. Mayor, I will now proceed with the motion for recommended actions number 1 and 2. I'll move it.
Second.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Van, a second by Councilmember Torres. I will now proceed with roll call vote. Councilmember Torres?
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor?
Yes.
Councilmember Warren?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Van?
Yes.
And Mayor Schaub.
Yes.
Thank you, item passes.
Okay, we're now going to new business, which we don't have any.
Correct.
We're gonna put none.
I just noticed. Mr. Mayor, we have none.
You're slipping. It's okay. All right, number 10, oral communications. This is the time that we're going to allow the public to address the city council, the successor agency, the Stanton Housing Authority regarding items within our subject matter jurisdiction of the city council, the successor agency, the Stanton Housing Authority, provided that no action is taken on non-agenda items. If you would like to speak, you can fill out a form, or you can also go *6. You still have the ability to do that?
No, Mr. Mayor.
We're not doing that anymore.
Written communication, emails, or in-person
And we don't have any, correct?
Correct, so we have none.
This is your chance, audience. Speak up now or forever hold your peace. Okay?
Just today.
Okay, we're going to close public hearings now. We're back to number 11.
Mr. Mayor, written communication, we also have none.
Okay, 12, mayor, chairman, council, authority, initiated business. Okay, committee reports, council, agenda, authority announcements.
I have something on 12,
Regular.
Okay, my favorite agency, the Orange County Vector and Mosquito Control District. I talked to Hannah, but I haven't seen it come through. We're supposed to be setting up a time for them to do a meeting, you know about it?
I do, my apologies, sir,
Are
yes, we do
Are
have
we moving
them.
forward on it?
Absolutely, we have them scheduled for our first meeting in May.
Perfect. And then the other part of it is, they're looking to come to any of our festivals or anything in the city, and they like to set up their booth and things like that. Have they contacted you, you contacted them?
I haven't, sir, but we can definitely keep them on the list for the next one. Yes.
Because they'd love to do at least some things like that. And then we will be getting magnets, I think, Caesar, to put on the sides of our trucks, our maintenance trucks in the city. They're Orange County Vector Control. It has something about a mosquito biting somebody and saying I'm bad or something like that. But these are supposed to last, previously they used to do them just once a year. These are going to be higher quality and we'll keep them on as long as they look good.
Okay, yeah,
You should be seeing them.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. That's my announcement.
I had announced this last time, but I wanted to say it again. The Stanton Community Garden is having their 3rd annual Open Garden Day, and that's going to be on Saturday, the 22nd of April, which is Earth Day, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And the garden is right next to City Hall, right where Norm Roth Sports Complex is. So we welcome anyone from the community to participate. We have a lot of child-friendly activities, and we also have a couple of plots that are available for anyone who would like a garden bed. Additionally, the Stanton Community Foundation is also hosting our 20th annual Stanton Car Show on May 20th. And that will be at Stanton Park from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's free to the public. Please come and enjoy all the amazing cars we have at the event. Thank you.
Okay, the only news I was gonna say was that we all had a chance last Saturday to go to the egg extravaganza. I like that. Anyway, Zinnia, we've already talked about what a wonderful job everybody has done. It was flawless. We had so many people there, resources that we've never had before. I think we gave away enough candy to make all the dentists in Orange County happy. And also, it was just a good time. Chief, if you would please, I had a chance to thank all the folks from the Sheriff's Department that were there. It was just nice to see them. They were cordial. Especially thank the Explorer folks. They really got into it and were very, very helpful. So the Sheriff's Department did an outstanding job that day. I didn't see a part of it. But it's okay because I know what you guys were doing. You were putting up dumpster fires all week in Stanton, which is better than being at the egg hunt.
There were a lot of fires this past week.
Yes, there were too many fires in Stanton, including the one underneath Dale Street in the drainage canal.
Correct.
You know who was there? It was the Ribbons, was Annie was there, Jim. She said to say hi.
Talk to her today. She's good.
And she also said she's ready to go into a shelter.
We're closer than we've ever been.
I know, I'm so excited about that. I think I'll take her myself. Okay. Anyway, we're so happy that, to have, you guys, I was on most of the fires, by the way, and you guys handled them. By the time I got there, they were already out, so the only thing I saw were John's pictures, because John got there ahead of me.
John and I were both there, but we're really upset with the fire department because they put the dumpster fire out so fast and we were trying to fan it towards the palace. Burn down, burn down.
You know, we are very fortunate to have the people that were working that Saturday, or that week, when we had that, they were right on top of it. I think we're gonna have a few more this summer, because the weather's nice and we have a lot of people kind of out and about, so thank you for that, Chief. Welcome. And again, Chief, thanks for the OCSD, great job. Sure. Okay, we're now at future meeting. You got anything?
I might. Can you look at doing something about the so-called Pink Palace that isn't anymore? I mean, the number of complaints we get out of it, I know it's a private business, but you can't treat people the way they seem to be treating people. Something's going on that it's not legal.
Well, I think one of the things is that there's kind of there is a diversity in that building. They kind of have, I don't know if I don't know if you've ever seen that movie in New York, where they have all the different little groups. That building has kind of its own little groups. And sometimes those little groups don't get along. And so some of the information that we get out of there is quite interesting. I will tell you that everything that ever gets a complaint out of there is taken either to the city manager or to the police department. And believe me, I think our chief knows more about who lives in every one of those apartments who they are, and what needs to be done. And they do a pretty good job.
Anything with code enforcement? I mean, they're not overpopulating the rooms. I mean, it just seems like there would be something there that they're not following.
Mr. Mayor, council members, since this is an initiated item, we can't really get too much into it, but I can report, as I think Mr. Ren would report, that you've received notice, you received letters from, our residents, and that I can confirm that staff is working with the management there, and I can have, Hannah touch base offline.
Perfect.
And would you like to keep this as an item or hear what they have to say before
I
that?
got
Okay.
it.
So I'll make sure they
Thank you
know,
so
and we'll have, both Mr. Ren and, Hannah Schmidt on touch base on that. Staff is looking into it. I know that you did receive a letter and, that person is very insistent and she.
Because for over the years, we actually got quite a few there, especially when they stopped, had to raise their rates because they weren't suffering or that they weren't low income or something.
They have a lot of things going on, but,
Yes.
it is coming back up again and, we have new management, of course, and we're working together in that moment. So, let's have a conversation with Hannah and see where we can go from there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been a number of years. We're good. I think we actually invested some money in the answers. Thank you.
Honestly, these ones are kind of.
I think we gave us some money. All right, anything for a future study session? Okay. Returning from her whirlwind trip to the Philippines, we now have a report from our council.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I have no comments.
Okay.
Pictures of the trip.
Okay, and from our outstanding substitute city manager tonight.
Acting.
I like substitute.
Thank you, Mayor. No,
She
I'm
can always
just
come back. They're coming.
No, I'm just Mayor.
Oh,
Thank you.
darn. Okay, before I go to fire, why don't you give us a little update on some of the things that you observed in the background of your wonderful event?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I do want to echo and appreciate the support from the City Council and the other elected officials that were present for the event. We had a wonderful turnout, great weather. Our lead staff for the event, coordinator Justice Paula, did a great job organizing staff, volunteers, number of resource groups. And overall, we couldn't do without the support of council volunteers. I want to thank Public Safety and Public Works for providing traffic plan support, and as well OCSD and the Explorers, Sarah, who was very helpful, as well as getting the word out and highlighting on social media. Thank you so much.
Okay, Chief, you're up.
All right, good evening, honorable mayor, council members, and city staff. It's my pleasure to provide you with the following OCFA operational report for 2023 of March of 2023, excuse me. In March, the OCFA responded to a total of 325 incidents within the city during the month. 18 of those were fire responses, 281 of those were EMS or rescues, and 26 of those were hazardous conditions or miscellaneous calls. During the same month, we responded to a total of 53 incidents within the unincorporated Orange County area serviced by Fire Station 46. Of those 53 incidents, 0 were fires, 47 were EMS or rescue calls, and 6 were hazardous conditions or miscellaneous calls. During the month, there were 2 notable incidents that I like to report out on tonight. The first one occurred on March 7th at approximately 1:37 in the afternoon. OCFA Dispatch Center received calls for a structure fire located at 7882 Orangewood Avenue in the city of Stanton. Crews arrived on scene. They found out a working fire in the yard, a large amount of smoke visible coming from the backyard of the residence. Firefighters quickly made entry into the backyard, pulling numerous hose lines, and quickly knocked down the main body of fire and preventing any spread into the residence itself, other than some minor fascia damage to the wood boards. When they, upon extinguishment of the fire, they did find the backyard was had an excessive amount of debris and bulk storage. A lot of it was bulk storage of hand sanitizer, bottles, and so forth. So they actually had to call out our crews and equipment division to bring a small skid steer Bobcat to help remove that debris pull it out from the backyard so we can completely extinguish it and overhaul to make sure there is no kind of rekindle the fire. The damage of that fire was estimated to be approximately $5,000 to the structure and an additional $5,000 to the contents. And I'm happy to report that there were no injuries reported to any civilians or firefighters. The second significant incident we responded to was another structure fire. It occurred on March 28th, approximately 11:36 at night. This was reported at 11743 Beach Boulevard. This was the fire I spoke to earlier that occurred back in April of 2021. So this was a vacant commercial structure. When crews arrived on scene, they had a fully involved structure with flames going through the roof. So being that they knew the building was vacant, there was no chance, there's no say no chance, but the building was vacant with the fire conditions they had. There was no survivable conditions inside that building, so they took what we call defensive posture and extinguished that fire from the exterior to knock down the main bulk of the fire and also prevent any spread to any of the exposure of the nearby businesses. Once the main body of fire was knocked down, we did make entry in the building to do a primary search just to make sure that there was no one in there prior to the fire occurring. Damage for that fire was estimated to be approximately $50,000 to the structure. Since it was vacant, there was no damage to any contents on the inside. And the cause of the fire was undetermined due to the significant damage and debris that fell down. We couldn't rule out any cause, but knowing that there's no power, most likely was a human cause by homeless or transients. As I said earlier, I would like to make a special note because it ties directly to that lithium-ion batteries. So back on April 26th, when the original fire occurred, one of our fire captains who's stationed at Station 46, following that fire, started to suffer from some medical ailments that they determined was a direct exposure or directly related to the exposure of the smoke and the metal hydrate of that fire. And since May of 2021, he has still been off duty, and as I stated earlier, he may not be returning to work just due to medical complications that he's still trying to work through. As far as in the month of March, a couple community events we hosted. March 22nd, Battalion Chief Eric Miranda and our community education specialist Milton Vieira conducted a fire safety presentation at Lawland Park, Mobile Home Park. Thank you to Mayor Schauber. Chief for a minute there. Arranged that meeting. I know it was very well received at community education. Then also in the month of March, the OCFA opened our gates at our regional fire operations training center for our annual open house. As you know, we haven't had it for the past couple of years due to COVID. The event was extremely well attended with well over 3,000 people that showed up and attended. And as we had live fire demonstrations, we had canine demonstrations, we had fire engine ride-alongs, as well as fire safety demonstrations with everything from exit drills in the home, fire extinguisher use, and then as well just general home safety. So we're very fortunate and happy to have that event back, and we hope that we will never not have to close our doors again, the gates again, due to some kind of as we experienced. Bless you. In March, our safety messages were focused on cooking safety, electrical safety, hoarding, fire risk, dryer safety, basically all kinds of safety messages all driving around the household and the home to make our community safe. And but some upcoming events we have coming up here is I'd like to thank Mayor Schauber for procuring a sponsorship for the Public Safety Appreciation Luncheon on April 27th. We're looking forward to having our firefighters come down with your city staff as well as the Orange County Sheriff's Department for that luncheon. So thank you for that. And then on Friday, in the evening of Friday, April 28th, the OCFA will be hosting its 15th annual Best and Bravest Award celebration. This is an annual event that we host celebrating the best of the OCFA, recognizing the firefighters of the year, professional staff, chief officers of the year, as well as where we give out our annual medals of valor, medals of courage, and some hero awards to those firefighters that have gone above and beyond the call of duty. This concludes my report for the Orange County Fire Authority for the month of March, and I'm available for any questions at the end.
Any questions? Thank you, Chief. By the way, I do appreciate the fact that, you led the group for the water rescue up in Northern California. And everybody made it back safely, so thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We're ready to go on. Okay. Everyone drive home safely. Thank you for the large crowd we had here tonight, and we hope that you come back again.